There are two books that every witch should have in their library, and that is A Witch's Date Book and Practical Solitary Magic by Nancy B. Watson. Whenever I have mentored any girls, I tell them these are the two books that you always need to have in your library, and you can do any spell with these two books. Now, they have a ton of spells online that you can choose from, but I prefer to do my magic safely and effectively. And so this is what I have turned to for the last 40 years since this book was first published. And it is more of a psychology and ethics of magic book. And I think it's very important, and that has been skipped a lot as of late. Now, I know I've talked about the safety of magic and using it against other people, and I cannot say it enough because it's not told anymore. And they're saying that this is happening, from the 90s. That's not true. This book has a ton of resources from people who she learned from way back in the 60s, 50s, 40s. So whoever's telling you that no, it's okay, you can do whatever you want, they're straight up lying to you. And if you read this book, you'll see for yourself as you look at the different people that she learned from, that this is something that you have to be very careful with. You have to have ethics. And the only way to do magic effectively, and you want it to last, then doing these things to prep your spell and work on your spell helps you. Now, if you're more advanced, then you probably either already do this or you don't want to. And to them, I say, good luck to you. Do what you want. That's on you. It's none of my business. I'm just showing someone who's new to magic how they can do it effectively and safely. And I say safely with an emphasis because you have got to be safe while you're working these spells. And these are the different things that I'll be able to show you through this book. Now, there's a lot of misinformation out there on, that this was all a 90s thing. It was not a 90s thing. Let me assure you that whoever told you that is lying to you. This was not a 90s thing, the Wicca movement. This was just the beginning of when things and information became more public and accessible. So don't buy into that because it's not true. It wasn't true in my case. I'm 60 and I learned stuff from my grandmother, and I learned stuff through this book. And you can clearly see if you read this book that there are authors that she used and learned from that were from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. So you'll learn that from this book. And it's one of the most effective books for witchcraft that I have found, and in my personal opinion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a spell for someone today, someone very close to me, and I am going to show how I do the spell using this book to help you see what is in this book and how it can help you. And then later on, I'm doing a series over the summer, going through each chapter of this book, explaining what is done, how it's done, why it's done, so that if anybody who's new to the craft really wants to know how to do this effectively, they will be able to by watching these videos or just going out and buying this book. And I do not get any credit for this book. I'm not being paid to do this. This is strictly the best book that I have found so far in the 40 plus years of doing magic that is the most concise piece of literature out there for the witch. Now, I'll be going through this book kind of quick, but later on throughout the summer, I'll be taking a more in-depth look at this and talk to you about each one. You want to make sure that you protect yourself throughout the day as well as during a ritual, and how to create a sacred space. You're going to want to seal your aura, and you're going to want to ground and center. This book will teach you all of that, and you do that before you start any magic. Then you're going to choose an archetype if that is what you want to do with your spell and you like to work with deities. I personally do love to work with deities, but you don't have to work with deities. And so this gives you the option whether you do or you don't. It's entirely up to you. You are building your magical personality. So these are the things that you will learn as you go along. And then you would call in the 4 elements to help you with your ritual if that is something that you like to do. I use all of the elements in my magic. I choose which element that is going to be the one that's going to be most helpful for me during my ritual. And I'm going to be doing a spell on courage, so I am choosing the fire element. Now, how do I know I want the fire element? This book has a chart for each element and the goals and the correspondence that you're going to need for the spell. So there is courage, and it is part of the fire element, and that is what I want to work with. Now it also shows where you have positive and negative qualities. Now, if you wanted to get rid of anger, you'd also go to that. And then it has all the herbs that you could choose from, herbs and flowers that you can choose for that spell. And it has all the minerals, the crystals that you want to use if you're going to use these in that spell. So you have a great variety of things here. And it even has the spirit animal that you want to call on if that's your thing. And like I said, all of this has got to be your thing. If you're into it, cool. If you're not, okay. So I've got a candle that I'm going to use for the ritual. I've actually got 2 candles. I'm going to use the white one because it lasts longer, and then I'm going to use the red one to seal the herbs onto that tea light candle that I'm making. Once I've picked out all the herbs that I'm going to be using, I take a bowl that I use specifically to mix all of the herbs together, and I will mix them together and put an intention into the herbs that will go on top of the candle. I add the crystals that I chose from that chart and add those too, and with the herbs. You are now tailoring this spell to have the vibration that you want to give to the person that you're creating this enchantment for. Once everything is in the bowl, I mix it with my fingers. Now, some people will use a tool. I use my fingers as the tool because I am also putting intent into those herbs that will be going onto the candle. Now, a lot of this is optional. You're going to choose and pick what you want. I'm just showing you how I do it. Now, I took a bay leaf and I wrote the word courage on it, and I set it on the candle with the herbs that I sprinkled on top of the tea light. It's at this time that I usually seal all the herbs on top of the tea light with regular wax that I've already got ready and prepared to pour on top of it. And while that dries, I will take my other candle and I will begin to do an enchantment that I have designed specifically for the person and the goal of the spell. Now, as you can see, I carved things into the candle. I actually did it on both, but I didn't show it because it's personal. But I carved the person's name, I carved the intent, and I also carved some runes for courage. And then what I'm going to do is take the red candle and say the enchantment that I make up for him around the candle and seal it with red, because that too is the color of the fire element. It's at this time that I am finalizing the spell by placing this wax to seal the spell and finish it. And I will also be doing an enchantment that I will not share for the person that I am creating this spell for.